The most important thing left for the Atlanta Braves in this season is Drake Baldwin's attempt to win NL Rookie of the Year. I'm going to tell you why and how he can do that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at shortstopball. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X, Locked On Braves on Instagram. And if you're new and you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, leave me a comment down below. If you're watching on the audio or listening on the audio version, you can leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Both of those things help us out here a lot. So thank you so much for all of you out there that continue to do those things. And thank you for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Today's episode, we're going to cover a variety of things today. We're going to start out talking about Drake Baldwin and his path to winning NL Rookie of the Year, a race that he is now losing, but still very much in the fight. We're also going to take a look around the league and look at some of the leaders, both team-wise and individually since the All-Star break. Maybe we'll see a couple of Braves names pop up in that. And we'll talk about the Jake Fraley signing. We'll talk about Austin Riley's injury setback right now and all of that on today's episode, which is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the U.S. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. Well, I think the most important thing for the Atlanta Braves the rest of the way, and I think for fans too, one of the biggest reasons to watch the rest of the way for, other than just enjoying what's left of this baseball season, is the race for NL Rookie of the Year. That is highly, highly important for the Atlanta Braves. Not just Drake Baldwin, and I'm sure it'll be a great, obviously accomplishment for him, but for the Braves as well. And what it could mean if Drake Baldwin is able to win Rookie of the Year. And in case you aren't familiar, when you win Rookie of the Year now, or I shouldn't say, there's a prospect promotion incentive, which states that a prospect who is on at least 2 of the main top 100 prospects list, which Drake Baldwin was, a rookie prospect who earns a full year of service time, which Drake Baldwin will, and obviously wins the Rookie of the Season award, that player's team will then earn an extra draft pick after the first round. So we're talking about a top 40 type of draft pick here. With the Braves likely to have a top 10 pick in next year's draft, if they could also then get a top 40 draft pick from the PPI, that would give them a ton of money to spend in the draft next year. Again, it's not just about the talent that you get. And yes, that's a big part of it, but it's the money that you can also spend towards acquiring more talent throughout the draft and spreading it out. We've seen the Braves do that even in years like this past year where they didn't have a ton of money to spend and they still were smart and strategic in how they spread that out. You give them, an extra $5 million, or that's probably too much for the top 40 pick, but you give them an extra couple of million to work with. And what could this group do? So it is highly important. Like I said, I think it's the most important thing future-wise for the Braves. Obviously, getting some players going is going to be huge for the development and just for the confidence going into next season. But actually being able to get another pick and what that means. And I was looking at the top 40 picks from this last year's draft, and the slot value for it was a little over $2 million. So you get an extra a little over $2 million to spend towards your draft picks next year. And that can be very, very beneficial, obviously, for the team and signing other players and just coming away with a really big draft class. So that's what this means. So again, if you just quite didn't understand that or didn't know why it is so important and why I label it as the most important thing, is because of what it could mean for your team and what it could mean for your farm system going forward. And we know the Braves farm system has been looked, down upon by a lot of the national media, even though they continue to churn out a lot of top prospects year after year. But, you give them some top picks, which they haven't had in a while. You give them a couple of top picks and give them more money to spend. And you can see how quickly this can be very beneficial for the Atlanta Braves. So all that said, what does the NL Rookie of the Year race look like right now? And according to FanDuel, Isaac Collins of the Brewers is now the favorite to win the NL Rookie of the Year, even though it's still a tight race. And it's just interesting to see how things have changed as I checked it throughout the year. Drake Baldwin's pretty much always been in the discussion near the top, especially after the first month or two of the season. You got off to the slow start, but then really heated up after that and was in the discussion. For a while, it was Drake Baldwin and AJ Smith-Shawver were 1 and 2 for Rookie of the Year odds on FanDuel. And then obviously AJ Smith-Shawver got hurt. And then Mizorowski of the Brewers, he popped up and he was getting a lot of love and actually overtook Drake for a little bit. And then, he got hurt and set back, and they're trying to obviously limit him. And then Drake took the lead again. And now another Brewer, and Isaac Collins, has gotten hot, and he has overtaken Drake Baldwin for the best odds to win NL Rookie of the Year at -160. But again, Drake Baldwin's close behind at +130. And then the next closest is Agustin Ramirez of the Marlins at +2,000. So this feels like a two-man race the rest of the way between Drake Baldwin and Isaac Collins, which makes it, I think, even more exciting as a fan, and especially a fan, of the Braves, where your team's not necessarily playing for much. You can pull up Drake Baldwin, you can pull up a Brewers game and see what each guy's doing, or at least check the box score every night, see what did Isaac Collins do tonight. Obviously, you're watching the Braves, you know what Baldwin does whenever Snit decides to start him. So I think it gives you a little bit more of excitement and some impact when you're watching these games the rest of the way. So let's dive into the numbers real quick to see where these two players are. Isaac Collins played 102 games this year, 340 plate appearances. That's in comparison to Drake Baldwin's 91 games and 317 plate appearances. Obviously, being a catcher, going to play in less games, and that is going to hurt Drake Baldwin to some degree, at least in the counting numbers. But in those counting numbers, Isaac Collins, 8 home runs, 48 runs, 41 RBI, and Drake Baldwin, 13 home runs, 35 runs, 56 runs batted in. So even with the fewer games, Drake Baldwin, counting numbers wise, at least home runs and RBI, has a big lead over Isaac Collins. Now, Collins does have 13 stolen bases and Drake does not. And you look at the slash lines, Isaac Collins, 280, 377, 436 with an 813 OPS. Drake Baldwin, 278, 344, 455 right there as well. So, kind of in an OPS just fell under 800 at 799. But you look, the average is similar. Collins has a big advantage in on-base percentage. Baldwin has a significant advantage in slugging percentage. And then the OPSs are very similar. You look at WRC plus, though, and Isaac Collins at 132 with Drake just at 123. And then F4, Isaac Collins, a pretty sizable lead there as well at 2.9, and Drake Baldwin at 2.1. So taking my bias out of it, I'd have to vote for Collins right now. If the race ended today, based on those numbers, with him having the higher WAR, with him having the better WRC plus, I'd probably have to vote for Isaac Collins. Especially when you consider what Collins has done to help this Brewers team get on a hot second half stretch, which we're going to go over second half numbers here in a little bit. I think that plays into it for me. I know this isn't a valuable player award, and that's always the discussion when you're talking about MVP, who's the most valuable player, and does it have to be tied to a team that's winning? And Rookie of the Year never really has been that. But as you're looking for two players who are pretty similar, and you're kind of looking for that edge, that could be one that voters look at, that Isaac Collins was on a winning team and was helping them in the midst of their best run of the year. Now, you could also make the argument in Drake's favor that he's playing catcher, and he's obviously playing fewer games, still putting up big numbers, and it's just a big toll on a rookie catcher to come up and have to manage a pitching staff and do all of that. Now, you could then also make the argument against Drake that maybe he hasn't done a good job of handling that pitching staff with how bad they've been, but anybody that follows the Braves knows that it was great in the first half when their pitchers were healthy, not so much in the second half. But you're also dealing with voters who aren't as in tune with the Braves, unfortunately. And a lot of them are just going to search Fangraphs. They're going to filter it by National League rookies, and they're going to filter it by F4, and they're going to vote for whoever's at the top. So that's why that F4 number is really big, and Collins has a 0.8 lead right now in that category. You look at these two players and the way things have developed. Like I said, Drake Baldwin's pretty much been at or near the top for most of the season after the first couple of months. And you look at it over this past month, though, and that's where Collins has separated himself. They were pretty much neck and neck coming into the month of August. But then in this month, Collins has slashed 308, 383, 596 in August. And that included a stretch where he missed some games going on the paternity list. Baldwin hasn't been terrible in August, slashing 273, 322, 400. But Collins has just been insane right now. And kind of crazy too. I mean, Collins coming a little bit out of nowhere. He's a 28-year-old rookie. But he has, certainly put together a fantastic year and deserving to be in the race. And like I said, if the season ended right now, I'd probably have to vote for Isaac Collins. So what needs to happen for Drake Baldwin the rest of the way to win this award? And I think, quite honestly and obviously, he's got to have a strong finish. He has got to obviously play more. I think he needs to be playing pretty much every day. I know he's a catcher. You're going to try to get on some off days. And honestly, one of the worst things to happen for Drake Baldwin, even though it's been good for the Atlanta Braves and they've played better here lately, but one of the worst things to happen is Marcell Ozuna playing well. And yes, that's cut more into Sean Murphy's time than it has Drake Baldwin's time, but it still has cut into Drake Baldwin's time too, that he probably could have gotten a couple more games here or there, or probably would have gotten a couple more games the rest of the way, if not for Ozuna getting hot right now, and the fact that you have to play Ozuna every day in that DH spot. So that's going to take away some at-bats from Drake Baldwin the rest of the season, but he's got to have a really strong finish. I know a lot of people are worried about him getting tired. He played 124 games at Gwinnett last year. He's just at 91 right now, so I don't know that will be a huge issue. We'll see. Obviously, you're playing deeper into the year, and you're playing, even though the Braves are out of it, you're playing meaningful big league games on a bigger stage. So I'm sure that's been more mentally exhausting too. But I think it's in there for him to get 120 starts this year. But he's got to have a strong finish. There's no doubt about that. And the other part of it is hoping that Isaac Collins kind of comes back down to earth. Look, it's not like he was a bad hitter in the minor leagues. He had an OPS of 840 or higher in 3 of the past 4 seasons in the minor league level, but he does have an expected batting average of just 256, which is, well below where his actual average is at 280. And you look at his Baseball Savant page, and most of it is blue. So again, hopefully he doesn't stay as hot as he has been, kind of comes back down to earth, and Drake Baldwin finishes strong. And it really may just come down to who has the better month of September. I know we still got several days left here in August, but it is that close, because I was given the reasonings for Collins, playing for a winning team, Baldwin being a catcher. I do think ultimately, if the race is that close and they're within a couple, percentage points of F4, WRC plus, all of that most voters are going to look at, I think at that point you have to give the edge to Drake Baldwin, who is playing catcher, which is a much more demanding position. So if Drake can just even get this back to even numbers wise, I think being catcher, being there all year long, gives him the edge in that regard. But he's got to have a strong finish to the season, have some big games, and get that OPS back over 800, somewhere in the 820, even the 850 obviously would be fantastic, and I think would probably win it for him. But that's what you're looking for the rest of this way. And what is a lost season for the Atlanta Braves, and there's not much to play for down the stretch. To me, the most exciting thing to watch the rest of the way that has real impact on the team going forward is the NL Rookie of the Year race. So let me know your thoughts. Who would you vote for right now? Maybe you think I'm off on this, and you can take your bias glasses off and you still think that Drake Baldwin is the leader right now. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And next, we're going to take a look at the leaders since the All-Star break. See, the Braves have been playing better baseball, but how has the rest of the league looked? Who's collapsing down the stretch? Who's having some hot second halves like Michael Harris? We'll get into all that here next. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You have subscriptions that you forgot you were paying for? I just found some the other day. I don't know if my kids are just randomly clicking when they get in on these things or what, but I had several subscriptions I didn't even know I had and was able to just get rid of them, saving me even more money. It also helps with budgeting for couples, independent goals, etc. Monarch Money is simple to review with your partner. You can both see budgets, goals, and spending activity in one place. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. We'll have one more episode coming your way this week, our weekly mailbag episode on Friday afternoon. Look for a post actually coming out on Thursday morning. I'm going to ask for some questions earlier this week because I'm going to split the mailbag podcast up into two, giving you one on Friday and then another one while I'm out next week as well. So make sure you submit plenty of questions to that post, which I will send out from LockedOn_Braves on X. And then next week, like I said, I'll have some pre-recorded podcasts for you. We'll have an extended mailbag episode come out next Monday. And then next Tuesday, we'll have another minor league spotlight podcast talking about which Braves could be in the top 100 prospect, which Braves could be looking to get this PPI bonus in the future for the Atlanta Braves. We'll talk about that next week. But also make sure you're subscribed to Locked On MLB, where those guys will get you caught up on everything happening around Major League Baseball. And that's kind of what we're going to do here. I usually do an Around the League segment. We haven't done it as much this year, but I wanted to do it, but look at it from the All-Star break and see who's having some good second halves, which teams are collapsing, which players are having some hot stretches here in the second half. Obviously, we know the Braves have been playing better in the second half, so that's the part of the season we really want to focus on. So let's take a look around the standings. Since the NL East, the Phillies have clearly separated themselves in the NL East. They've been 19-12 since the All-Star break, while the Mets have gone 12-16. The Braves and Marlins have both gone 15-16, and the Nationals 12-17. In the NL Central, I mentioned the hot streak for the Brewers, aided by Isaac Collins. They've gone 23-7 since the All-Star break. The Reds 17-13, battling for that wild card spot, and the Cubs, who were leading that division with the Brewers' hot stretch. The Cubs have gone 15-15 since the All-Star break. The Pirates 15-16. They've had a pretty good run here. The Cardinals, who were kind of in the race a little bit before the All-Star break, they've gone 12-18 since then and have fallen out a pretty good bit. And all these records and numbers, these are going into the day on Wednesday. In the NL West, the Padres 18-12 since the break. The Dodgers 14-15. The Diamondbacks 14-16, the Rockies 14-16, and the Giants, who, again, another team that was in that playoff hunt, they've gone 9-20 since the break to really take themselves out of it. In the AL East, the Blue Jays 19-13, kind of pulling away in that division. Red Sox and Yankees both 15-14. The Orioles 16-15, similar to the Braves, a team that got off to a bad start. They had a managerial change, but they're looking to try to finish strong and build into a 2026 season where I'd imagine the Orioles are going to get right back to trying to contend. The Rays 11-18 since the break. They've fallen off a good bit. In the AL Central, the Royals and Guardians trying to catch the Tigers, going 18-11 and 18-12 respectively, but the Tigers, right there with them, 17-15. The White Sox 13-16. We talked about how well they've been offensively since the All-Star break. They've also been winning a good bit of games too. The Twins, not so much, 11-18. And you're going to see it in a minute when we talk about some of the hitting leaders and pitching leaders, for that matter, for the, I almost said Oakland, but the A's, whatever we're calling them. They're 16-13 since the stretch. Best record in the AL West. Mariners right behind them at 17-15. The Rangers 14-16. The Angels 13-17, and the Astros 13-18, trying to let some other teams back in that AL West race. Now, looking at the hitting and pitching leaders for a batting average since the All-Star break, rookie Nick Kurtz. Talk about the rookie of the year. We discussed a lot about the National League. In the American League, Nick Kurtz is having a monster season right now for the Athletics, and since the All-Star break, he is batting .426. Michael Harris is second since the All-Star break, batting .391. So Michael Harris has been insane since the All-Star break, but Nick Kurtz even more so, which is just incredible to see and think about. And his name's going to come up a lot more here. And you look at just overall rookies this year, Isaac Collins, as I said, leading the National League with 2.9 F4. Nick Kurtz, 3.8 F4. So almost full point higher than the top National League player. And they had another rookie of the year too, Jacob Wilson, 2.4. He got injured and missed some time. Nick Kurtz only played in 85 games. So pretty crazy what the A's are doing over there. And a team that I think a lot of people thought was going to compete coming into the season, but they had a rough start, got off to a rough start, and now they're starting to to turn things around. I mentioned second in batting average was Michael Harris at 391, and then Geraldo Perdomo at 366, Vlad Jr. at 362, and then another A, and former Brave Shea Langoliers at 355. He is in fuego right now as well. You look at OPS leaders since the break. Kurtz at 1346, Langoliers at 1181, Michael Harris at 1139, Vlad Jr. at 1125, and Ohtani at 1104. Home run leaders, Langoliers with 15, Kyle Schwarber with 14, Ohtani with 12, Junior Caminero of the Rays with 12, Bryce Harper with 11, and Michael Harris has 10, so he's right outside that top 5. F4 leaders since the break, Nick Kurtz 2.5, Langoliers 2.3, and Michael Harris 2.3, Perdomo 2, and Vlad Jr. 1.9. On the pitching side, Cade Horton at 0.58 ERA in the second half. Trevor Rogers 1.32. Remember that guy? Orioles traded for him at last year's deadline from the Marlins. Completely fell apart. Got sent down. He has come back this year, and he's helped a couple of my fantasy teams where I picked him up, and he has been unbelievable. Jacob Lopez of the A's, a 1.80 ERA. So like I said, not just the hitters for the A's right now. They got some good pitching as well. Gavin Williams, a 2.00 ERA, and Hunter Brown, 2.12. Talk more about him in a second. Whip leader since the break, Nick Pivetta, 0.74. Rogers, again, 0.78. Kevin Gausman, 0.79. Horton, 0.81. And Michael Wacha, 0.87. Joey Wentz, 15th in whip since the All-Star break at 1.01. About the only pitcher that you're going to find. Obviously, Waldrop doesn't qualify for a lot of these based on my filtering that I have. Strikeout leader since the break, Christopher Sanchez and Tarek Skubal at 47. Tyler Glasnow and Brian Wu at 44, and Paul Skeens at 43. And then F4 leaders, Rogers at 1.6, Sanchez 1.5, Hunter Brown 1.2, Wacha at 1.2, and then Skubal, Jack Flaherty, Andrew Abbott, and Paul Skeens at 1.1. Skubal and Brown faced off in a pitcher's duel for the ages on Tuesday night. They went 2 extra innings and ended in a walk for a 1-0 win for the Tigers. So you liked great pitching. That was the matchup for it. But those two guys have been good all year, but especially in the second half. All right, when we come back, I want to talk about division realignment. Rob Manfred with some interesting comments on the broadcast the other night, and it's had everybody talking about division realignment. Where could the Braves end up? We'll get into that here next. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. The grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or you just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. And golf is all about having good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the U.S. other than the Masters. Tee it up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Again, it excludes the Masters tournament. This offer ends October 31st, 2025. Again, visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry, and it ends October 31st. Well, again, thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. I appreciate all the support that you give me here on the podcast, and appreciate it especially through this tough stretch that the Braves have been going through. I want to get into some of the news as well as this division realignment talk. Rob Manfred on national television tonight, ESPN broadcast, talked about possible expansion and what it could mean for realignment. And here's the direct quote from Mr. Manfred. He says, "I think if we expand, it provides us with an opportunity to geographically realign." He goes on to talk about making it easier on players, blah, blah, blah. It's all about money. We know that. But it's interesting to hear him say it kind of out loud. Obviously, there have been rumors, speculation of expansion at some point and what that could mean. But to hear the commissioner, say it, and he's not confirming it. He said, if we expand. But that, I think it kind of just, what it does confirm is that it's on the table, and that it is maybe a little bit closer than we anticipate. Now, I still think it's probably 4 or 5 years away from realistically happening, which also happens to be when his current contract is up at the end of the 2028 season or through the 2028 year. So that's probably the time. I would imagine if this is something that happens and Manfred is pushing for it, he wants to see it happen during his tenure. So I would think towards the end of this decade, the 28, 29 season, something like that. They talked about the two new locations that are talked about the most with expansion right now are Portland and Charlotte. They need another team in the Southeast. Nashville, Charlotte seem like obvious locations. That's going to hurt the Braves market in some way, but it's just got to happen eventually. I mean, the Braves have had so many years of being the team of the entire Southeast. That's got to be broken up at some point. And Charlotte, like I said, or Nashville seems like a potential landing spot. Portland's been talked about for many years on the West Coast. In an effort, to make things more geographical, many realignment scenarios that we've seen since Manfred's comments have the Braves in a division with the newly expanded team, whether that be in Charlotte or Nashville. Many people are picking Charlotte right now, the Rays and the Marlins. While I would miss our division rivals with the Mets and the Phillies, sign me up for that division. The Rays, the Marlins, and an expansion team. I feel pretty good about the Braves' chances if that's the way that things shake out. And we'll see. Obviously, there'll be a long way from that and a lot of speculation at this point. But I think that would be pretty favorable for the Atlanta Braves if they get put in a division with both Florida teams, which Tampa Rays obviously had some good years, can be a tough team. Marlins once every 10 or 15 years they put a good team together. But that seems like a pretty favorable division for the Braves. It could also eliminate the National American League, depending on how they want to end it. It's just a naming thing, but that would be kind of sad to see the American and National League names go away. And I'm guessing it'd go back to a more unbalanced schedule if the focus is more on the divisions. I guess it depends on how they want to do it. And again, I'm not as familiar with the NFL and the NBA's playoff system, but from what I understand, NBA divisions basically are meaningless. I think it's just the top 8 teams by record. And the NFL divisions are a little bit more meaningful and impactful. You can get buys and all that. So I guess it just depends on what format they wanted to do. If they wanted to really just focus on divisions or just make it all a balanced schedule and just take the top records. So we'll see how that, potentially unfolds. But very interesting to think about going forward. Let me know what you think. How do you think things should be realigned? Are you for expansion? Do you want another team in the Southeast? Maybe you're listening from the Carolina region. Do you want a team in Charlotte or somewhere? And would that take you away from the Atlanta Braves? If they got a team in Nashville and you live in Tennessee right now, what would that do to your fandom? Let me know down in the comment section below. As far as some Braves news here recently, the Braves claimed that Jake Fraley off waivers from the Reds. Pretty significant pickup here for the Braves. Not that he's going to be a starter or anything, but it does improve your depth. He's expected to join the team on Friday. We'll see what move they make at that point. They can't DFA their best bullpen arm and Luke Williams. I don't know what they're going to do at that point, but we'll see. He's 30, outfielder, mostly corner outfield, left-handed hitter, so you got that platoon advantage. He is controllable through next year, so it gives the Braves some flexibility. And 67 games this year, a 12.4% walk rate is good, 21.2% strikeout rate is not bad. 6 home runs, 4 stolen bases, a 98 WRC plus. I mean, that's all pretty solid. He's had a 96 or higher WRC plus in 5 straight seasons now. So again, he's been an average hitter, and he is a platoon only option, a 172 average in his career against lefties and a 45 WRC plus. So you just cannot play him against lefties at all. But on the flip side, 260 against righties with the 112 WRC plus. So it's not like he's over the top against righties either, but certainly is a pretty solid platoon option. He also has good speed. He rates out average defensively according to OAA on Savant, but has a strong arm. So again, a very good depth piece, good 4th outfielder, probably an upgrade over, like a Jared Kelenic. I know he's not on the team right now, but even a Carlos Rodriguez, who we've all kind of been, asking for to get a chance earlier in the year. Remember, we were all asking for Carlos Rodriguez to get a chance over Michael Harris. That's kind of sounds funny now. But just some good depth for the Braves and somebody that they could have control over. So I like this pickup for them. The Braves also recalled Dane Dunning and Connor Siebold, who we saw both of those guys in the game on Tuesday. They optioned Daysville and Hunter Stratton. Poor Daysville, man, he's got those options, and the Braves are using them. As I said the other day on the postcast too, I think he's also been a little shaky since returning, and want to see him really kind of dial it back in and have a strong finish. Austin Riley is unfortunately still dealing with soreness in his abdomen, which is unfortunate. At the same time, it's giving us more of a look at Nacho Alvarez, which I'm not too upset about either. But obviously would love to have Austin come back and, he have some good at bats for the end of the season. Second straight year now that he's, missed a good bit of time due to injury. So I'd like to see him come back and get, have a good feeling going into the offseason. And Matt Olson is now has the 12th longest active games played streak at 746. Next up on that list is Nelly Fox at 798, which he will hopefully surpass at some point next year. All right, that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Braves. You want more from a Wednesday night's game, make sure you check out the postcast that me and Lindsay did on that. Make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Braves, where you get this podcast and the postcast that me and Lindsay do after each and every game. Make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. And make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you.